Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing well. So it's been a long time since I made a last video, and today in this video I'm going to show you how you can start with MERN stack. Now you know what MERN stack is. If you don't know, MERN stack means a stack that's grouped, sorry to say, basically it's a group. We use this tech stack to build websites, web applications. We use this for web development. So what MERN stack stands for is basically MongoDB, React.js, Express.js, and Node.js. Should I say Node.js? Because React and Express are actually working with Node.js. So we can leave that, but because everything is running on Node.js, that's why Node.js. That's why this is called the MERN stack. You use MongoDB for your database management, you use React for your front-end development, you use Express.js for creating your backend development. And how this actually works. Okay, so what actually goes behind the scenes is that we create the backend in Express.js, we create RESTful APIs in Express.js, and then we create the front end with React. And for any kind of data management or data fetching, we use those APIs in React so that we can get some data from our backend. And to save those data in backend, we use MongoDB, which is actually a NoSQL database, which means that there is no relationship management there. That is called NoSQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it maintains a relationship, but in NoSQL there is no relationship management, and that's why it's called NoSQL. The return data format is kind of like a JavaScript object or JSON data, I should say. That's the correct thing to say. So in this video I'm going to show you both how you actually create APIs in Express.js, and I'm also going to show you how you can create the front end using React.js, and then I will also show you how actually those APIs are get connected with the front end, how the data is getting fetched, and how you can use those data in your front end application for any kind of operation. So let's get started. So in my desktop I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to give this folder a name called YouTube project. Okay, now here I'm going to open up this folder, and inside this folder I'm going to create two folders. So the first folder I will create here is backend, and another folder I'm going to create is the front end. Now I can open this folder inside my code editor. So let's open this code editor with VS Code. Okay, so the code editor has been opened. Now it's going to ask me for the permission. Yes, I trust the authors. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this backend folder first, because we are going to create some RESTful APIs first. And inside the backend there is nothing, but what I need to do here is I need to create a package.json file first in order to install all my dependencies. Okay, so to use those dependencies or packages, you need to have Node installed. Okay, so you can write here check node-version, and it should probably give you the version. So I'm currently using Node 20.11 version, and if you install Node.js from official site, you will get also the npm, which is called the Node Package Manager installer, and we can use those npm package manager to install all our dependencies. Okay, so in order to create the package.json first, I need to write npm -y, which means yes, just go ahead and add a default template for the package.json file. So oh, I see, I made a small mistake here. Let's add npm init dash dash y, and now it should create a package.json file here. As you can see, a package.json file is created in our folder. Okay, I made another mistake. It should not be inside my root directory, it should be inside my backend directory. So what happened is that I actually forgot to move into my backend folder. So in order to do that, I have to write here cd backend, which means I am changing my current working directory. Now the current working directory in this terminal is backend. So I will write here npm init dash dash y in order to create a package.json file inside my backend folder. Now it should probably give me a template of the package.json right now. So you can see there is a package.json file, and now if we open the file, there is absolutely nothing here. You will see nothing here. There are just some default text like what is the name, what is the current version, some scripts, and we will also see how to use the scripts. There is also something called here main.js, index.js file, because it's pointing to the main entry point. Okay, so before starting installing all our dependency, let's create a index.js file here. Actually, you know what, you can give it any name you want, but I like to keep it as index.js. So currently we are not doing here anything. We have to install first all our dependencies. So what I'm going to do here is I will clear it out, and then I will start installing all the packages I need for some to use Express. Always we'll write here npm install Express. Then for database management we need MongoDB, but we'll use Mongoose because this is an object relational mapper that very well connects with the MongoDB, and we can use the Mongoose ORM in order to do all the CRUD operations. So we have here the Express.js, then we have Mongoose. We also need a course package in order to avoid the coarse origin issue that occurs from the front end when we try to connect the API of the backend in front end. So we are using the Express.js, then we are using Mongoose, we are using course. There's another package I will need, it's called .env, in order to manage my environment variables. So let's install this first. There are lots of packages you will install when you will be developing advanced backend, but for this small project we don't need, as far as I can guess, we don't need more than these packages. So let's install this. So the packages are getting installed. Now the main target of creating this project, that we will create a model of a product. Like we'll give it a name of a product, well, let's say title, some description, and maybe a photo. I think we'll avoid the photo, we'll just add the price, and that would be our model. So our product will have three properties: title, content, and price, and we will use ChatGPT in order to generate those fake mock data. That's it. Okay, so the packages has been installed. Now what I need to do here is I will go inside. Okay, so I actually forgot to install another package that I will be needing in order to do the development process of Express.js. But before doing that, let's just see how basically we write Express. Okay, so as you can see in the package.json, there is another property has been added called dependencies. So these are your dependencies. This is the course package, this is the .env, Express, and Mongoose. So when in your hosting server, or where you will be hosting your Node.js application, when you try to run those applications, these dependencies will be installed there. And this is why the package.json is very very necessary. Not only that, if you have this package.json in any folder, inside of any folder, and you use your terminal and write npm install, these all packages will be installed there. Okay. So now let's close this package.json and start writing our server. So we are using here common.js to import all of our packages. So I'll write here express. Okay, I think I need to increase the font size so you can see it better. Okay, I think this is very very much better. So we'll use the express. So I'll add express here, and this is the way we import packages using common.js in our Node.js application. Then what I will do, I will create an express instance called app, and here I'll use the express in order to create an instance of the app. Now the app is basically our web server. We need to start it, and to start it we also need something called a port number, and this is could be your custom port number or a port number that is defined by the web server itself. So let's say the custom port number I will add here is called 3000. Okay, then in order to show the default view of the application, what I can do here, I will write here called app.get, and this is a function that means that we are making a get request to the web server. Okay, so here first I need to add the route, which route I actually want to visit. So if I add a slash here, this means this is the default route. So which means that when we try to open this application in our web browser, the first very thing that is going to be show is this default route, which we can also say that this is our home route. Next we need to add a callback function. So I am going to use an arrow function here. You can also use the function, an anonymous function here, and add this, but but in modern days most of the development you will see that we are using arrow functions. So I have added a arrow function here. Now this arrow function takes two parameters. One is called the request and other is response. So when you are making any kind of request to view any kind of page or any kind of data from a web server, you are actually making a a request, and when that server is responding with you with some kind of data, that is because of this respond. Now what I can do here is that I can use something called respond.send, and this will basically just send like a piece of text to the view layer. So let's say web server is running. Okay, now to initiate our application we will add here called app.listen. Okay, so it's creating a listener, which means that when we hit this port, then something is going to happen. If we add a port number here, and then we need to add a callback function. Okay, so I can say the console.log, let's say web server is running. Okay, so all of our routes are going to handle by this port, and this is why I created this port variable. I am going to copy this and I am going to add it here. So later on, if we need to change our port number, we can easily change it from here. Now this is the minimalist requirement to create an Express server. This is how much you need to write in order to create just a basic form of an Express server. Okay, and that's it. Now what I need to do here, I need to start my application, and before starting I need to add something here. I will go to the package.json file, and you might have noticed that there is another file has been initiated here called package.log.json. It actually is here to carry out all the versioning of your packages. Okay, and we don't need to actually focus on that very much because we are focusing here on Express and React.js. So you see there are some default scripts added here, but in order to start our application we need another custom command, which is I can add here as say, let's say start command. Okay, so these are some few commands you can add in order to run your applications, and you can find these documentations online. So start, and I will write here node index.js. Why node index.js? Because node will be the application runner and index.js is the file where my server code is written or initiated. So this is the starting point. Now I will add here node, not node, I will clear here, and I will just use the npm package manager, and I will write here npm start, and this will start our node application or our Express server. You can see now it says web server is running. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up my browser, and inside here I will write here only one thing called localhost first, and after localhost we give it a I actually don't I actually can't recall the name of this sign, but that's how you have to write the port. So after localhost you write the port number. So this is the port number 3000 we added in our application. So now I'm going to hit enter, and you can see that the first thing is web server is running. And why this is happening? Because if we go back to in our code editor, you can see that in the very first route I added this web server is running. If I add this that web server is running and I change this, let's say YouTube project is running. Okay, now if I go here and refresh, you can't see any changes. The reason is that we made a change to our localhost. We made changes to our server. Now we need to restart the server. So I'm going to close it down, and I'm going to start the server again. So this is called restarting server in order to refresh all those changes. So let's reload, and now you can see it says YouTube project is running. Okay, I hope you can see now. So I know that this could be seen as tedious, like if we made change to our application, then we need to always start our application like this, and this can be very much, I know that this is not suitable, and in order to get rid of this problem, or in order to solve this problem, developers created a package called NodeMon, which we will install in order to smoothly run our application, catch all those changes and implemented them. So I will install npm install NodeMon, and we will use or install this as a developer dependency. This is not something that is going to be installed in your web server as a dependency. We will use this only for our development environment. So let's write npm install NodeMon. Okay, so NodeMon has been installed, and to see if NodeMon has been installed, let's go to the package.json file, and we can see that a NodeMon has been installed as a developer dependencies. So how can we use this NodeMon? It's very easy. Just like you added here node index.js, you need to add here as a development script, that this is a dev script. We will add here NodeMon index.js. Okay, we'll just simply save it, and then we will, instead of starting with node application and node index.js, we will start it with NodeMon index.js. So I'll write here npm run dev, and this will start the development environment with Node.js. So as you can see, it has started. Now we can see that Node.js starting node index.js, and now you will see the magic happening here. So I can write here, let me just show you here. If I refresh this, we have still YouTube project is running, but if I add here, let's say node1 has been installed. Okay, so node1 has been installed. Now if I go ahead and before doing that, let me see if my node1 is running. So yeah, node1 has started the application or restarted the application again. Now if I go ahead and reload this, you can see that it says node1 has been installed. So yeah, that's pretty much first round basics, how you can create a small express script, and then how you can create routes and controllers in order to show some kind of piece of data or maybe a view. Okay, so the main goal of this project is to create a few products API, and before doing that, let me show you something. What we can do here is in my backend project, when I am starting any kind of backend project, I usually create few folders in order to create an basic backend, and to do that we'll add here some folders like say controllers, and this will be our logics, like this arrow function. We can say this is a controller, and then we can add a routes folder, and we can consider like this slash as a router, and let me show you an example again. If I add here app.get and I add here a slash and I say home, so you can say it as, let's say this is a home. Okay, we save it, and now let's go here, and after this port number, if I add this home and if I hit enter, it says here this is a home, and if I just use the default slash or the default URL, then we will get back this node1 has been installed. So that's it. We can consider this is the route and this is our controllers. Okay, I will just delete this. We don't need this home route. So we already have a controllers, then we already have routes. Now there is another thing we will need for our application. It's called the models, and there may be another folder where you can add all your custom configurations, your maybe constants, or your any other kind of utility files. But for creating basic MVC pattern, we can use this structure: model, controllers, and routes. Okay, so first we'll focuses on the models, and before creating the model, let me go to the ChatGPT first in order to create some fake data. Chat.openai. Now I can ask here ChatGPT, hey, I need some mock products data for development. Data should include title, content, and price. Now hit enter. Now you can see that it's giving me an array of objects which includes some product data. Like the product data has a title, it has a content, it has a price to show, and this is pretty much we need. So if I copy this, and let me copy this, and let's go back to the index.js file. What I will do here is I will create an array of objects. I will say it as like products. Okay, so I'll add it here as products, and now you can see that I created here some products data. So instead of sending a piece of text, we can also send JSON data from our backend server. Okay, so I'll create here app.get, and here in the routes I will mention it called as products. Then I'll create another callback function which will accept request and response, and will simply return a response from this route which says response, and I can use the JSON here, and in the JSON I can pass this products. So when we hit this route, then this route will serve us with a JSON data of the products. So let me copy it, and let's go back here, and after localhost 3000 we can add this products. Make sure your route is correct. Okay, now I need to just make it a small. So now you can see that we have a JSON data, and basically this is what we are trying to achieve. We will create APIs, and you can think of this as an API, and you can think that products actually an API endpoint, okay, which is serving you with some data. That's it. This is what we are going to achieve through this product, this project. Okay, so now I know that each of my product has three properties, which says price, title, content, and price. So I will create a model here which I can call it as a product model, and I can use that product model in order to save my data into the database the way it has been defined. Okay, so let's go here in the models, and let's create the product model here, product model.js. Now you must remember, I hope you remember that we have already installed Mongoose here. So we are going to use the Mongoose to create a product schema, and then we will export that model. So let's add, actually first add the Mongoose, which is our ORM, require Mongoose. Okay, so this is our Mongoose package. Now we need to create a product schema. So cons, let's say product schema, and then we will use the Mongoose. So we will add new Mongoose dot schema. We are going to use the schema property here, and inside this schema function we are going to add the schema. So this will be as an object, and you can write here, let's say title, and you can create another object here which defines title is like which type of this property is. So we can say this is a string property. Then is it actually required or not? So you can say this is required as true. So this is required, so we are adding here a boolean value. And then we also know that we need a content here, right? So this is a content, and I can write here as type as string, because we know that the content is also a string. And finally we need a price here. Okay, and since the content is also required, I can set it as true. And finally I will add the price object here, and I will add here is, let's say, float, maybe parse float, no actually maybe this is a number, yeah, this is a number type. And yes, the price is also required. Is it true? Okay, so yeah, this is the schema. This is the minimal schema we are using here, and now we need to add this schema into our database as a model. So how can we do that? First we'll write here as, let's say, product model, and instead of products yes, product model, and then I will add here say mongoose dot model, and I will call it as product, and then I will add the schema. So the first parameter this mongoose dot model takes is what is the name of your model is going to be, and the second parameter is takes the schema, in means that which schema this model will be based on. Now in order to use this model in our controllers, we need to export it. So I will use here module dot exports, and this is how you export functions, objects, or any kind of thing in a common JS format. So module dot export, we will export the product model here. Or you know what, I can also say this is a product. But since this is a product, we need to create a controller that will be connected to our model. And I remember one thing, that we haven't actually created our database yet. So what I'm going to do here is that I will open my here actually my MongoDB, which is my local development environment for my managing database. And you can also use the MongoDB Atlas in order to handle the database. So it's taking a little bit time. Yes, the application is opened, and the first thing you need to do is to start the connection of your collection you are currently using. So I can see it as let's say it's already, I think, connected. Yes, it's already connected. So for this project I will say I will create a new I can add a plus sign, and I can give the database name, let's say YouTube project, and for starting this database we need to have a default collection. So I'll say this is a test collection, then we'll just create the collection here. It says here that invalid namespace YouTube project test. Why is showing this? It should not show this. Okay, let's add some. Oh, I see. It's because the database name has a space. You don't want to add a space in your project. So what I'm going to say, let's say correct project. I think that's going to be more suitable. So this is going to be correct project, and default collection will be test. So now create the database. Okay, so this is the database we are currently using. We are using the correct project database, and test is our collection. So what is test? You can think of it like an array which is holding some collection, which is holding some objects. So that's a collection, an array with some objects. Okay, now in order to connect this, our database always gives us a connection string. So if I click here, you can see there is a command called copy connection string. So I will go back in my index.js file, and here I can import mongoose in order to connect my database. So I have mongoose here. Now to connect before app gets initiated, I can write here mongoose dot connect, and I have to add here the connection string, which is this. But you can see that the connection string is just only MongoDB localhost and the port number. but it's not mentioning the database I want to connect. So I need to see which database I want to connect. I want to connect to the CRUD project here. Okay, so I can copy the database name and go back here and end this here, the CRUD project. Now, because this returns us a promise, either we can use the try and catch block, or we can use the then method. Okay, so let's add a dot then property, which just we can use to return a console. Let's say console log database connected. Okay, if I save it here, okay, save this. Let's see what's currently happening here. Okay, there are few things happen here. I can go ahead to use the Control C in order to close the operation first, and let's start the our server from the beginning. Let's start our server again, and after seeing, let's say, web server is connected, web server is running, you can say that database is connected, which means that Mongoose has successfully connected to our database. Okay, but when you are actually making a development and using something very important like this connection string, or maybe an email or a password, or maybe even the port number, these are all sensitive things. So what you need to do, you need to add an environment file, and from that environment file our script will access those values and use them. So in order to do that, in my backend folder I will create an environment file here, which we will call it as .env, and here I will add those environment variables. So for example, like this port number. Okay, so I can add here port, and this is how you have to write the environment variables. So port, and then let's say the port number is 3000. Okay, so in order to use this environment variable in my script file, I need to call the .env package. You might have noticed that we have installed the .env package. So now go back to the index.js file. What we will do here, we will call the .env package. So const .env, and we will require .env here. So .env is the package we are going to use in order to access all our environment variables. Now to initiate this package, we need to add .env and call the config function. So this is how you initiate your environment variables, and then in this with the help of .env we will access the environment variables. Okay, so to use this environment variables, instead of writing the port number directly, sorry about that, the port number directly, we will add something called, let's say, process.env, and then we'll add the port number here. So we will call it as port. Now sometimes it may happen that your script file is not able to access the port number. So to resolve that issue, we can use the OR operator. So let's say if the port is not connected to the 3000 port number, then it can connect to the 5000 port number. And if we open up our terminal here, you can say that web server is running and database is connected, which means that the port we are using has been connected to our script file, but we don't know which port number is currently using. So how to solve that issue? Let me first just go ahead and close the connection first. We'll start it again. Okay, so I'll create the terminal. So in order to see which port number is using, we can use the template interpolation in our console, and we can see which port is using. Okay, so in order to, we'll use the backticks we add the web server is running, and we'll say which port is running, is the port is currently running. Okay, so web server is running on port number, and the port number is going to use the port, just add the $sign here. So now it can access which port number is currently using. And I remember also one thing here, that sometimes it may happen that your mongoose is not connected and it might get crashed. So if it is not get cached, it's not get connected, then we have to use the catch function. And in the catch, it sometimes catches the error, and instead of showing that error, we can just go ahead and say process. We can console log, let's say database sent connected, and we can say process dot exit, so it will terminate the connection. Okay, let's save this. And you might have noticed that when I'm saving the file, it makes the structure of the coding much more pretty, and the reason is that in my VS Code I'm using an extension called prettier. Okay, so now I also need to remove this from here, or I need to hide my connection string. So I'll go back to the environment file, and here I am going to add the mongo underscore URI dev. You can call it mongo URI as also, but I use this called mongo URI dev in order to differentiate between my local connection or local database, and maybe later on I can add another let's say another variable in my environment, which I can call it as mongo URI prod, in order to differentiate which is my production connection string. Okay, but since we are not going to connect with the production database, we will work only the development database here. So I add here mongo URI div, and let me copy this, and in the same process I am going to add the mongo URI dev environment variable. So I'll add here, say process dot env dot mongo URI dev. Okay, now since I created another environment variable, I should restart my server. Let me get a zip. Okay, now you can see it says that web server is running on port 3000 and database has been connected. Now it's time for us to create those controllers and routes in order to get all those data. Okay, so in my controllers folder, I will add the product controller here, product controller .js, and the very first thing I will do here is I will import the product model here. Why I am importing the product model here? Because we will need this product model in order to interact with our database. So I will give the absolute path here, and if I come to my models, I can see that there is product model. Okay, now when you are using CommonJS, it's quite natural to not use the .js extension. So we have imported the product model. Now we have to think about what we want to achieve with this product model. So I'm going to show this only 2 or 3 operations here. Let's say the first operation will be, let's say, a create operation. Another operation I will show is let's say view operation, and maybe a single view operation, and finally a delete operation. And maybe we can also see the update operation as well later on. So I'll keep it as update here before deleting. So these will be all our create operations that we are going to perform. Now let me create the function first to create. So I'll write here create product, and we'll create a controller that takes request and response. And first we'll just create functions like this, and I'm going to copy here. So I say get products, and then again let's add another function here. Let's say get single product, and let's say update product, and finally we'll add here a delete product. Okay, now these all are your controllers. Here you are going to write all the logics that will help you to interact with the database. And now in order to use these controllers we have to export them. So module.exports exports, and add all of these functions in your exports. So we are basically exporting an object here from this file, not a single function or single object or single class, something like that. We are actually exporting an object from this file that carries all these functions. So all of this controllers has been created. Now we need a routes folder that will carry all of these controllers. So let's go to the routes file, and I will create a route folder here. I will call it as product routes.js. So the first thing I will need to do here, I need to create a router which we will use for our routing. So I will import, or actually require, Express, and Express has a router method in order to create a router. Now the router has been created, we need the controllers as well. So I'll create call it as product controller, and we'll require the product controller. So now it will look for the controller, and in the controllers file I have the product controller. Okay, now one thing I can do here is that instead of writing a variable and calling this file and getting all of these functions as an object, I can use the destructuring method in order to get all of these functions, because if I don't destructure them, then I need to add functions like products controller dot create something, which can be a time consuming thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this object here, and in my products route I can add them like this. So this is called destructuring. Now there will be 4 required operations from your controllers. The first operation is create product, second is get product, then get single product, update product, and delete product. Now usually the request or likes has different methods. For example, we have already seen the get request method where you make request to the server, but when you are doing some kind of data posting to the server, it will be considered as a post request. When you are trying to make any kind of change in the data, it will be considered as a put or patch request. And when you are trying to make or delete a product from the database, it will be considered as a delete request. So these are all the methods. Let's say get, post, put, or maybe patch, delete. Now there are other HTTP methods. There are many more HTTP methods there out there, but generally we use these four methods for doing all our CRUD operations. So let's create our few APIs here first. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, let's create a router get method. So this will be a get method, and the route we are going to use is called products. Okay, so this will be our API endpoint, and this is for let's say getting products data. So we can use the get products function or controller in order to get all the products data. Now I can add another API here, which I can add it as like post, and I can use the same endpoint for data posting, and this will be my controller for posting data. I know you must be thinking is like, why I'm using the products. Let's say I can create another endpoint here. Let's say add product, but generally it's a convention, like if you are using an API which is for getting a data, you can use that same API for posting data as well, because you notice that this is a get method and this is a post method, so we are using the same API endpoint for doing different kinds of operations. Now we need a single product, so we can use the get method again, but this time the API route is going to be a little bit different. And why is going to be little bit different? We are saying here get single product. So in order to get the single product, we need to find the product by its ID number, and which means that we have to search the product from the database based on the product ID. But however we are going to get the ID? We need to get the ID from the request parameter. So I'm going to use the same API endpoint products, and after products I can add a slash and add still I can't recall the name of this sign, but you get it. So I add here ID, and we can consider this as a product ID that we are passing through our request parameter. So get single product. Yes, so now we have single product, and we can use the same endpoint for our doing all our update operation and delete operation as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make 2 copies of this, and I'm going to use the update product. And since this will be an update operation, we don't use the get method, we use generally put or patch method. So I'm going to use the put method. Now I can also add the delete product here, and the method is going to use is called be as say patch delete. Okay, alright, so our all endpoints are ready. Now we need to export this router in order to use into our application. And however we are going to do that, we are going to use same module.exports, and we are going to export this router. Now we are going to use this router in our application. So in my index.js, I'm going to call this router. So what I'm going to do here is after my environment configuration, I will call it as, let's say, product routes, and I will require this product route. So what I'm going to do here is in my routes folder I have this product routes. Okay. And to use this in my application, after initiating my default routes, let's add a comment here, routes. Okay, after initiating my default routes, I'm going to close this. After initiating my default routes, I can add a middleware called app.use, and I can add the products, products route. Okay, I can actually go ahead and add it before my default routes as well. So this is called a middleware. Okay, middleware. And why we are using a middleware? Okay, so middleware is something, let's say, if before even hitting a route, it will check or do some kind of validation. So that's what middlewares are. They do checks and validation. And this middleware, this app.use, will check if the product routes exist. For example, it will go ahead and check if this endpoint actually exists in our database. And by doing this app.use and we are adding the products routes, we are registering those routes in our application. Yeah, so basically pretty much your MVC pattern, the basic MVC pattern is created. So let's see what's currently is our application. We can see that application is still doing great, but we haven't created a logic yet. So let's go to the product controller. So I'm not going to do very much validations here. What I'm going to do here is just I'm going to create products, then get those products and show how to get a single product view and update and delete those products. So let's first get the product data from our request body. Okay, so what I can see here is I can write here data or product data. Okay, product data. And how I can get this data? I can get this data from my request body. Okay, but since I know that my data are going to be this data which my schema holds, this will be the properties of my data, title, content and price. Instead of just writing product data, I can go ahead and destructure this. If I need to do some validation and I can destructure this from my request body. So these are my product data. So as you have remember, this is our product schema. Okay, so we can use this product schema in order to save the product data into our database. Now in order to achieve this, we need to convert this function into an async function, because we are going to use the await method to save data into our database. So we have title, content, price. Okay, let's add say product data here, and we can say new product, and here we can add these properties. Oops. And now we can create an await function here which will just save the product data into our database. So we are going to use the save method. So after your product data has been saved, we can return it as a response with response.json, and we will just pass this as a data, an object data or just a piece of data. Now since we are using here await, there might be a problem could be occurred when you are hitting an API. Something can go wrong, maybe some piece of data is required and that is not present in the request body. Then it can throw an error, the app can get crashed. And to see what kind of error it occurred, we need to wrap this into our try catch block. So let's add a try here. Okay, and you can add a catch, and catch as a default parameter error, and we can return it as, let's say, return as res.json as an error. Okay, sorry about that, console error. If I save it, I have a problem here. Now save it, it's okay. Now with JSON data we can also send a status code in order to verify what happened. So if the data if the operation has been okay, we can send a okay request or 200 request, 200 status code. So I can add a status here. I add a status code here inside 200, and after status I can add the JSON property here. Okay. So here I am sending the JSON of the newly the product data of the new created product, and here I can send a JSON error. I can also create an object here and I can give a message here. Let's say maybe something went wrong. Okay, and what I can do here is that I can take this error and I can say error dot message or something went wrong. I can convert it here and add this to a string interpolation. Okay. So what it means that if there is an error dot message, if the server is sending us an error message, we can see the error message first that server is sending. But if there is no error message, then we can set a default error message. Let's say something went wrong, and we will send it as a JSON data, just like we are sending the product data as a JSON data. But also we can send a status code with our response. So we can set the response status code as, let's say, 500, which we can refer it as an internal server error. So we have res status, then JSON, and this. So create product. The product has been created. Now what I can do here is, let's say I need to check out this route, and to test it out in test out this route, I can use a client like Postman to test out if my controller is working correctly. So what I can do here is that instead of using Postman, I have a default client which is known as Thunder client in my VS Code, which I have installed it. So I can test out the APIs in my local development instead of moving to the Postman. So I can basically make a request here, and I need to make a GET request. So let's see, first we will capture this. Okay, we are already we can't make a GET request here because we don't have the logic builds for making a GET request, but we can make a POST request here. So in my body, in the JSON, I will send some sort of JSON data. So what I can do here is that I can copy this. And I can now set it as a POST request in this endpoint products, because if you remember, in the product routes we have this endpoint for POST and the GET request as well. And now in my JSON body, I am sending the title, the content, and the price as a JSON data. Okay, so that's how basically we post data to our server. Now if I make a POST request here, if I send, it says here cannot destruct protected title request body as is undefined. Okay, so now I know what's happening here, because we're using Express here. We need to define the method or the way this server is going to handle the POST request, and in order to do that we need to create another middleware. So let me use the app.use and express.json. So it means that now it can handle the incoming JSON data as well. So let's see if our server is working. Yes, server is working. And now let me see if I can make a post request. Now it says here status 200. Okay, we need to see the status code if the status is okay, and then we can see it that it has returned us a product data, say wireless headphones, content, and the price. And you can notice that there is something called underscore ID, and this is set because we have successfully saved this product data into our MongoDB. Now let me go back to the MongoDB database. I can make a refresh here, and you can see there is a products collection has been created. And you must be thinking like, I created product, why products? Because this is the default behavior of the MongoDB. How you define a model name, it will be converted later as a lowercase first, and then they will add an s with the model name. So we can define it as a collection. That's the reason why they do this. Now if I open this, just click, I can see my collection here. I can go ahead and create another product collection here. I'm not actually another collection. I can add another data here. Let's say smartphone stand, and make a post request. So it says 400 bad requests. Okay, I know why this is happening, because we added a comma here. That should not be in our JSON data. Now because we made the app crash, we need to restart the application again. Sorry about that, guys. So let me run this application. Yeah, the application is running, and we need to see if the server is connected to database. So database has been connected. Let me make a post request again, and you can see that it has been posted. Now we need to see the products we are getting from here. So what I am going to do here is, let me open the controllers file again, and inside the get products, we basically need a very small amount of code in order to see all of our products. So what I'm going to do here is just I'm going to say I'm going to create a variable here. I will name it as products data, and I will use this product model, and I will use the find method in order to get all my products. Now this will be an async function as well, and since we are using async, and since we are making a server request which returns a promise, we need to use the await keyword here and get the products data here. Now after we are getting the product data, you can say return response, say status as 200, and send it as a JSON data. Okay, so if I go back to my routes, I can see that this is the endpoint that I am using for getting all my products data. I can make a get request here and get all the products data here. So I have already created 2 products here. Let me create another product before getting finally all our data. So I can add here this product as well, and make a post request to our server. Okay, so we have added 3 products here. If I go back to my MongoDB and refresh this, I can see that there have been 3 products in my database. Now I can create another request here and send this request as a get request. Okay, now let me send this. Now we can see that there is a status code of 200, and it has sent us an array of objects which carries all our products data, the first product, the same product, and the third product. And that's how you make get requests to get all your products data. Now post controller, get back to the post controller. Now in order to see a single data, I have already told you that we need the product ID. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first get the product ID, which is I have set it as an ID in the request parameter. So this will be ID, and we will restructure it from request.params, and so we are getting the product ID, and now we need to find the product. So how are we going to find this product? Let's say const product. We will use the await here, but I remember that since we are using await, we have to convert this function into an async function. We will call the product model and find by ID. We are going to use a function from our Mongoose ORM to find the product by its ID. Okay, and then we'll return, if everything goes okay, we'll return it as something. Sorry about that. Mosquitoes. So we'll return this as a product data. Return response status as 200, and let's say JSON. And yeah, okay, so I remember one thing, that when you are actually building a product or actually creating a data, instead of sending that request as a 200 as a response request and response status code, we have to use the 201. So this refers to that a new data has been created, something like that. But when you are getting a GET request or making a GET request and retrieving all the data, the response status code is generally 200. And in case of a single product data, that is same as well. Now I remember that if goes something wrong, then we should use try catch block. So I'm going to copy this scenario, okay, and I'm going to replace all the codes inside of the try and replace it with this. Now save it here. So this is inside our try catch block now, so we can handle the error easily. Okay, so the product, now we get back to the Thunder client. So what I am going to use here is that instead of creating a new tab for making a GET request, I am going to copy the product ID, or you know what, let's just make a new tab. And after this products, I will add a slash here, and after this slash I can copy any product ID here, and I can paste it as here after my product slash. So the server then will consider this as the ID of the product. After the product slash, this will be considered as the product ID, because that's how our API endpoint is defined. So let me make it a GET request, and now you can see there is a single product here. Okay, so we copied the ID of the wireless headphones, and we are getting wireless headphones data. Let me copy the smartphone stand data ID, and now let me make a GET request here, and we are getting the smartphone stand product data here. So we have wrote 3 endpoints here. Now only last 2 endpoints remains here. So this is going to be pretty much like the post request, but it's going to be a little bit different, because we are first going to find the product and then we are going to update it. So just like we are getting the ID from the request parameters, in case of single product we need to get the ID so we can find the product and update it. Now which thing we actually update? We want to update the data inside of the product, but here we can use a shortcut. We can say new product data, or maybe let's say it as updated data, and we get the data from request body. Okay, instead of destructuring, we can just use it like this, and we can use the ORM in case of updating data. So let's say updated data updated product, and we can use the ORM. And I know why it's giving me red signal. We need to convert this function as an async function as well. And we have await here, so await dot find by ID and update. So this is the function we are going to use, and let's send the updated data first. And here we can use an option which says new to true. In case if there is no product, there actually exists with the ID, or actually not with the ID. In case if it doesn't find the data to be changed, then it will create a new product data. So yeah, updated data, and you can see all the documentation through here. We are adding data here, and you can see different things like these are not pretty much understandable, but this is how you create this updating function. So we have updated product data, and we are sending the updated data by using the find by ID and update API. Now we can return, and I actually don't remember, there is a status code when you are actually modifying a data. There is a default status code for doing that, but I can recall it right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just send it as a 200 status code. So status code is 200 and JSON data, and I can actually go ahead and, you know what, I can use this message which we generally use, and in the message I can say, let's say product has been updated, and I can also give the updated product data as data. Okay, and I can use the same format when I'm creating any kind of product. Okay, so I can use the same format, and I can get this product data. Okay, and I can say product has been created. Okay. Let me save it as first, and now we have to test out the updated product. But I remember one thing, we need to wrap it inside the try catch block. So try, and we can copy the catch from here. Okay. So yeah, the updated product controller is ready. Now we need to test it inside our request. So what I'm going to do here, since this is sending me this product, I'm going to copy this, and inside my body, inside the JSON, I'm going to paste it out here. I'm going to remove this food, title and ID. I'm going to keep other data here. Since I'm making a put request in this API, I say this is a put request. Let's say we can see the product price is maybe 14.99 cents, something like this. Let's say you have suddenly changed the price. Change the price to 20.99, and then we make a get request, and this is the same API endpoint we are using for making a put request as well. So if I send this here, it says here syntax error. Okay, I got the point. Never ever add a comma if you don't have any other property after it, and because of the same mistake, my app has been crashed, so I have to restart the application again. npm run dev. I take a zip. Sorry about that. Okay, now let's make a put request to this route, and it says cast object field value smartphone stand content durable aluminum price first. object ID. So this is the first time we are getting an error from an internal server for model product. So we need to see what happened here. This is how we basically debug everything. So I know that product's route is using, so the first thing I see is that yeah, the route is okay. It's the same point we see it for making a view and application here. So this time we are making a put request, and so if my router has a put request, yes, the router has put request. Let's go to product controller, and if I remove this, I don't actually remember if is going to be a problem. So yeah, the route has the ID as well, and we are getting from the request params, then we are getting the updated data from the request body. Okay, and updated product, and product has been updated, and we are getting the data. So it has been cached an error. Okay, let's make another request here. Another request here. Okay, so since I'm getting an error here, I can use the ChatGPT, or I can use Google. This is how developers work. When you make any kind of mistakes or any kind of fault in the development, you search for the solution of the problem, and that's what generally everyone do. So yeah, I can see it has here the doc, find by ID and update, character model, find by ID and update, name, title, new tutorial. Okay, so new tutorial is okay. Find by ID update. Okay, well, one thing. Find by ID and update. So find one update. It says find one update. Find by ID and update. This is I see. I got the point. What's generally happened here is that if you look at the logic here, you are trying to update a product based on the product ID, but you are not actually sending an ID. Where's the ID? So we have to add an ID here. So this is your product ID, and let me see the documentation again. So we are sending an ID, updated data, and some options, and a callback. So you can see maybe a basic example. Let's say, yeah. So you are sending an ID, and then you are sending this updated data. Then you have a callbacks, which we can use that if any error occurs. Okay, so we don't need that, but we can work with that. Okay, so it added some new options here. So as I said, new to true. Okay. Alright, now let's go back to the client and let's make a request here, and let me see if the server is running okay. Okay, so I make a request and it says status 2. Okay, and now you can see that the product that has price over like 14.199 cents, the price has been changed. And let's say it says smartphone stand, I can maybe change it as smartphone carrier, something like that. And I can make another request, and I can see that product has been updated with the newly updated data has been retrieved. So that's how you make a put request. Let's go back to the controller, and this is the final controller. We are going to use this. So I think already 1 hour has been passed, guys, and I think today I would like to over this with the last experiment of our routes, and maybe I will later make another video where we can see how to use the React.js in order to connect our APIs and create a simple product posting and retrieving deleting functions application just like that. Okay, so this is the final controller we are going to work with. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this full setup because there is nothing much to do here. First we will get the ID. We don't need an updated data because we are not making any kind of post or put request. We are not even going to get any data from the variable because this will be a delete request. So I'm going to remove this as well. Since this is not an update request, we are just going to delete this as well. And the API we are going to use will be find by ID and delete. Now remember, since we are using the try catch block, we have to wrap the function in async. So I'm just going to remove this, and let's actually remove everything from here, and let's try to find by ID and delete. Let's see if we have a function here. I don't know what happened here, but alright, so let's again save it here and let's see if I'm right. Find. Sometimes the suggestions appear, sometimes they don't. Yeah. And I'm going to just send the ID in this function. So this will just do the rest of the operation. This will find the product and finally delete the product from our database. Okay. So I can send a message here. Let's say product has been deleted. Okay, we are sending the same 200 status code, and since there will be no data here, so let me just remove this as well. The catch remains as the same as before, and now we can test out the delete route here. So let's go here, and this time I'm going to delete the smartphone carrier. Okay, so instead of making a put request, I'm going to add the delete request parameter, the request method here. Now let me just send it as first, but before let me check that if the server is okay, and then I can make a send request. So it says that product has been deleted. Now in order to verify this, let's go back to the previous tab and make a get request to see all the products. So in our previous request we have retrieved 3 products data, but now if I make a send request, we can see that there are only 2 products data, which means that the delete products is working correctly as we expected. So yeah guys, we have finally achieved the MVC. I'm going to close this all. We have finally created the minimal Express server with all the CRUD operations we needed. Now there are a few last things I would like to do is that sometimes we we make configuration folders in our backend, and or maybe some utility functions that we can use for our project. So what I can do here is that in my backend folder I can create another folder, let's say for database. Okay, and I can create a folder file here, let's say called dbconnect.js, and inside this dbconnect.js I'm going to cut out this. Now since we are using mongoose, we need to use the mongoose here, and we need to wrap this thing inside of a function. So let me copy the name of the file. I should like to, okay, we can even just go ahead and keep it as a camel face. Let's say const and dbconnect. I'm going to use an arrow function here, and maybe I can use an async function here. And since we are using the async function here, what I can do here is create a variable called const con, and then mongoose.connect. I can get rid of this. Mongoose, sorry about that. Yeah, I can get rid of this. Mongoose.connect. And as we have seen before, since you are using async, you have to use await for the promise to be resolved, and then you can say let's say console.log database has been connected. Okay, now maybe there could be an error for connecting your database, so we need to wrap this up in a try catch block. And let me go here in my controllers to get the default catch template. Okay, now I can I don't need to send a status code here. Now what I'll do here is that I'll just do it some console.log, and I can just go ahead and cut out this string interpretation and paste it out here, so I can see what the error message is. And since the database will not be connected, then what I can do here is that I can go ahead and process.basis, so this will stop the server from running. Now the function has been created, and you can easily export it. Now this is a single thing I am exporting. There are not any other functions that I am working with in this file, so I am sending it as a single function or exporting this function from this file. And only I need to do is that if I go back to the index.js, you can see that we have very much less code now, because since we were using the mongoose, we had to add this configuration directly into our app.js file. But if you keep the few functions or your operations and all your utilities in separate files, it becomes much more easier to later to modify them. So first we need to require this db connect from require. Okay, and let me add the database and slash let's get the db connect. And all I need to do is after this, now I can just go ahead and remove this, or I can just go ahead and save this as a command. Maybe we can use this data in later of our project, and add the db connect and just run the function. So this will start running or maybe I can even after the app has been initialized, or I can create another function here. Let's say function initiate function. Okay, so after initiate function, I can wrap up this, save this. Oh, sorry about that. Wrap up this, and then I can call the initiate function. Let's save it here. Now let me see. Let me close the server. And now if I run the application, it starts running. So to check if our application is running, I can open the Ternip client again. Let me go back to the previous routes we had. So instead of making a delete request, I can make a get request to see if the endpoints are working and the database is working fine. Yes, if I see here, we have two products data, which means our database is working, which means that the first phase of this small MERN stack project has been done. We have successfully created our backend server. We have added controllers, database, as well as models, routes, and we have created an entry point index.js. Okay, so it's showing some problem here. So it says already included the file, but where it has been included I don't see. I think I need to close it out here first. Sometimes it can carry a problem that was already resolved, but I see that it says let me solve it. What happens included adb.connect is this YouTube backend project is only in casing. Okay, so what happens, let me see, database, db connect. Maybe let me just change this to std, and let me change this as db as well, and let's go ahead and let's update everything. Let's say db, and let's go ahead and let's say db. Okay, so yeah, now the function. So there was maybe some kind of a casing error, but now we have already resolved every error we faced, and we have created a small backend server for adding products, deleting products, updating products, and getting all the products data. So this can do that kind of level of CRUD operation. So the backend is ready. Now we can focus on the front end, and let me what I can do here is that I can just go ahead and show you the first phase of the front end we are going to work with. So let me open the terminal, and now let me close this server for a few seconds. Let me restart it here. So we are going to run the npm run dev server, and after the backend is running, I can add another terminal here so that I can access to my front-end folder and create a React.js application. So let me add cd, go back to the previous directory, clear everything, check if we have front-end and the backend folder. Let me access to the front-end folder. Okay, so now I am inside the front-end folder, and if I ls, that there is nothing here. I can go ahead and create a React application here. So I can add here npx create at latest. So this is the command you need to add here in order to launch a React project. So this will give you several options to create several projects here. You can create TypeScript project, you can create so there is no npx. I think maybe I made a small mistake. This not be npx. Let's say npm create at latest. So let's say create vite. If this error occurs, then we can go to the Vite official site and check for if there is any problem. So you can see it asking us for a project name. Let's say by default we can add it as a Vite project, but since this is going to be my front-end folder where I want to add every files and folders, I don't want to add anything here. So this would be the directory where I want to add all my projects files. So I'm not going to use any vanilla JS, I'm going to use the React, and instead of using TypeScript I'm going to use the core JavaScript, and it will create this template which you can see there is a public folder, there is a source folder, git ignore, ESLint, index, package.json. These are all inside my front-end folder, and now what I have to do, I have to just go ahead and run these two commands called npm install and npm run dev in order to launch my React application. So it will take a couple of seconds to install all the dependencies, because if we go to the actually after the installing I will show you the package.json. But since our backend has been done, we can close all the backend and we can close all the files and tabs here. There may be one final change we need to make into our backend, but I will show that later, because I want to show you guys the error we are going to face when we will try to fetch products data from our application. And I can close these tabs as well. Currently we don't need this. Maybe we can need ChatGPT for later use, but for now this is okay. I don't know why. Okay, this is a get request, but I don't know why it's showing that. It should not be showing it here. We'll make a get request. Yes, the two products data we are currently working with. So let me open it up here and see. Yes, it's installing. It can take a little bit of time, but trust me guys, this is the fast the Vite can get. And when we used to work with create React app, it was more you have to wait like 1 or 2 3 minutes to just start with a create React app, but Vite is actually more fast than create React app. It's installing all the dependencies we will be needing in order to create a React application. Later on I will show you guys also how you can deploy your backend and how you can deploy your frontend. So I think I'm going to do that. I know there is nothing much to be done with this project. There's nothing need to be deployed on, but many YouTubers I have seen that they always make projects, but they never show you how the deployment process. The server deployment process on the hosting side is relatively different, and sometimes you might want to use VPS service, but I don't generally use VPS, and I use several services like Vercel or maybe OnRender for deploying my backend. Yeah, we can see now that the frontend packages has been installed here. So let me clear the terminal. Yeah, let me clear the terminal. So the terminal has been created. The only thing we need to done is we need to run the npm run dev in order to launch our React application. Sorry about that. That was my mom. Okay. So you can see that the application is running, and it says that it is running in localhost 5173. So let me launch the localhost 5173 here, and if I run this, you can see that a Vite React application has been launched here. Okay, so let me just introduce you with the several file structure here. We have the source folder here. We have the public folder here for keeping your public assets like your images, and we have also other assets folder here in the source. You can keep here your images, maybe your CSS files or maybe JavaScript files, like not actually JavaScript but other assets like this SVG or maybe PNG or something like that. But the main two things are here is this app.jsx, which has all the scripts we are currently using here. So these you might have guessed it is as an HTML, but this is not HTML, this is called JSX. Okay, so this JSX stands for JavaScript XML. This is the syntactic sugar in order to write HTML like syntax inside of a React application. So it has a function called app, and generally this is the convention. The name of the file is the function name. Okay, so then after creating this function, we generally export default. Now you have seen that in the Node.js application, the way we export functions or any kind of object, we use module export. But here we are using the export default because we are using the ES6 build syntax, which uses the import syntax to import any kind of function or any kind of package from any file. But in the Node.js, we are using the CommonJS syntax format to import any kind of function or export any kind of function. Now, to make changes, what I can do here is like I can just go ahead and delete this, and I can also I can keep this. I can keep this here, and I can delete everything here, and I can remove everything here, and inside this h1 I can write here my React, sorry about that, React application. Okay, so if I go here, you see that it changed so fast, and the reason why it changed so fast is because this is using something known as HMR, which is stand for hot module replacement. Okay, so any change you make here will be reflected on the server very fast. Okay, now let me introduce you with other files. So this is the app file where our script is going to be written, and the main I can remove this because we are not using this. The main file that we are using here is the main.js, that is importing first of all this React and also this React DOM, which is importing this create root. So this create root is the function which calls the root ID inside of our HTML and then renders this application, and that's how basically the React works. So where this root is, if you go to the index.html file, you will notice there is something, some div which is called the root. So every React thing is occurring inside this div, because in the main.js the React DOM client has targeted this root ID and rendering our React app. Okay, so this is how it's working. Now, how to connect our frontend with our backend, how to get those products data into our frontend. We need to get the API. The API that we were using in our Thunder client, we need to use that same API to get our data, to showcase that data inside our React application as well. Now, in order to do that, we need to create some state variables. So those state variables are variables that holds the local state or the memory of your application. Okay, so they can be changed. They are not static, they are actually dynamic states. They can be changed, and we generally use states and some side effects function to capture data from our APIs. So let's go ahead and create a state variable here, and let me show you example how the state variable works. Okay, so let me add here say const products and set products, and I will use the React built-in hook which is called use state. So you can see it imported use state from React. That's how use state is imported. Now I can set a default data here, or I can leave it as an empty array here. Okay, now you might have noticed this red dots. This is because we haven't used these variables anywhere yet. So what I can do here, in order to show the data inside my application, I can use the React interpolation to show data. Let's say I can use the products dot length. Okay, and you can add a product here. So if I go back here, I see that there are just zero data here because we don't have actually anything here. Even if I add something like an empty object, we can see that data has been changed, but this is empty object. We don't have any data here. We can't do anything with this. Now let me give an example you how React will work, or how the React is going to work with the data. If we go back to the backend folder and if we go to the index.js, I told you that later on maybe we can need this data in order to do some sort of operations. Okay. Let me just uncomment this, and I'm going to get 3 products data from here in order to show you how this React is working. So inside my use state variable, inside the array, we can add this 3 products data here. Okay. And now what I can do here is that I can finally remove this because this time I don't need it anymore. Okay, maybe I can keep it as, because later on maybe we can need to do some sort of post request. Okay, so now I have products data, and if I go back here, I can see the product has 3 because that much amount of data the product currently has. So how to show this products data? Well, if you have done your JavaScript basics, you know that in ES6 we have features like map, filter, reduce, but we generally use map to loop over through the array, and we can render this product data inside our React application. So let me show you the example. I can add a div here, and inside this div, what I can do here is that I can render this products data. So I can call the products. First I need obviously the brackets, because that's how the React data is rendered on the JSX. So products dot map. Okay, so this is a map function which takes a callback function, and in this callback function you can refer anything as this object. So I can refer them as item. So I am referring this object as an item. Now I can also call the index for indexing key to our React component. Now here inside, what I can do, I can add another bracket and render our div. I can give it an ID of the index. Okay, so I think there has been a little bit mistake here. Instead of adding first brackets, so we can add a curly braces here, and inside the return statement I can add this. Let's say h1. I can say item dot title. Let's save it, and I don't know what is happening here, why this is red dots here. Key prop for the element. Okay, I see. So what happens is that we need to pass a key prop to a component where your data is getting rendered. Okay, because we are looping over through the products data, and we are considering each of the data as a product, like item. You know what, I can just call it as product instead of item. I think that will be less confusing. And since the map is also delivers as an index, in the callback function we are sending this index as a key prop So React can differentiate between different elements or different datas. So now you can see that it says wireless headphones, smartphones, stand. I can add more data here. Let's add a paragraph tag here, and let's say that's a description. So I can add say product dot content. Okay, and add a product dot content, and this thing is called null collection. So if there is no property called title, then later you won't get any kind of error. And then I can add a price here as well. So I can say it as like say product price, and maybe add a $sign here just for the beauty sake. So you can see it says wireless headphones, high quality headphones, and 30 hours battery life, and the price. So we can see how React is working with static data. But what about the API we are going to work with? If we go to the Thunder client here, if we go to the last request, and if we make a request here, how are we going to get this data? Then we can use something called as fetch API that we use inside JavaScript to get every data from any API. We can also use Axios library for that. But since this is a very small project, I'm not going to use Axios library. Instead, I'm going to use the fetch default library. So I'm going to take this API. Okay. Let me copy this. And inside my app.js, I can set it as my const API URI. So this is my API URI where I'm going to take data from. Now what I can do here is that I'm going to delete everything here and set it default as just an empty array. Okay. Now we have to use another library, or actually another hook from React, which is known as useEffect, in order to fetch this data when the page loads or mounts first time. So I'm going to call the useEffect, and since I added useEffect, you can see it has been imported. Now we can use effect, we can use this, and it takes a callback function. Now inside my useEffect, I can create a function, let's say get data. So I can say const a function called, let's say, get data. I can even wrote the fetch API directly here, but I would like to containerize the fetch API inside of a maybe an async function would be perfect. So this calls say async function get data, and you can say, let's say, const response, and we can use the await syntax since we are using async function to say fetch, and I can pass my API URI here. Okay. Now this is the response. This is declared, but actually this is ESLint error. And after the response has been what I'd like to say, after the response has been resolved, we can get this data. We can get this data after the response has been resolved. We can get this data and set it as our product data. Okay, you can just go ahead and copy this and set it as response dot data. Or actually, you know what? Before actually setting up this response as data, I can go ahead and console log if the console log if the response.json has been done. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead here. Let's see here. just go to the console, and I don't see here, but there are a lot of errors here. And the very first error I'm going to see, if I go back here, it says that, okay, so this is a default React error. Let me just reload this first time, and currently we don't see anything here. And the reason you are not getting data because we haven't actually the reason we are not getting data here because we haven't actually initiated this function. So let me guess, let me see what happens here. Let me just run this. Let me see here. Okay, so says fail to fetch promise get data. So in promise, so in order to resolve the promise, let's say await. Okay, let me just reload this. Still not able to get the data. So what I can do here is, I know what is the cause of the problem here. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to close the connection in my API in my React application. I'm also going to close the server now. And I have told you once that we need a package called course inside our backend. If you go back to the backend folder, we see that we have installed the course package, but we haven't used it yet. And this is now where we will use it. We will import the course just like we imported the Express and .env, and then we are going to use it as a middleware so that it can handle the course issue that occurs from the front end. And the reason the course issue occurs is because you don't want any unknown man to get insight into your house, right? You will only give permission to those person to enter your house that you know. So course issue is something like that. The browser itself doesn't let you to connect one website with another website through API if there is no permission. So course package helps us to clear out those problems, so we can use it as a middleware just like we are using app.use Express.js to handle Express data. So course, and then initiate the function, and now we can restart the server again, and we can go ahead and do the npm run dev in order to run our backend server. And after the backend server has been started and has been connected with the database, then we can run the front-end server as well. So the front-end server is running. Now let me go ahead and just start the application. It has already started the application. Now we can see that there is some console log here, and if we check, yes, there are some products data. Now since we are getting the products, what we can do here is, let me just go ahead and close everything. Now we can just focus on the not very much the front end. So let me go to the app.jsx file, and now you can see that it says response.json. So what I can do here is that I can create another variable const data response.json, and sorry about that, I can save the data as my products data. Now since I'm using an asynchronous function, I can use the try catch block in order to catch any kind of error. So as a console log error. Now if everything is okay, then just go ahead and you can see that two products data has been there. You can again run this and you can see the two products data that were inside our backend. You can see the two products data here. So we have wireless headphones and finally portable blender. Please avoid the background sounds, the dogs are barking there. So you just focus here. We have two products data here, and this is how the use effect works. It mounts for the first time, it calls our API, and then after the data has been resolved, it sets the data into our local state. Then what we are doing here is that we are using the products data and mapping over through here. Okay, so what I can do here is that instead of writing all of this here, I can create a component. And I can just go ahead and use that component to create products card, something like that. So here inside my source folder, in the frontend folder, I can create another folder here called components. Okay, and maybe I can add another folder here inside, let's say cards. There could be several cards. Let's say you can have a product card, you can have a shopping cart, or maybe any other type of component, but components are meant to be reusable, so we can use those components later on. So here inside the cards, I can create a file called product.js. Maybe I can name it as product card.jsx. So JSX stands for JavaScript XML. I have already told you that, and this is going to be extension for all of our components. So I can open it here, and I don't need to import React, but what I need to do here is that I need to import this. And I can use an RAFC function, which stands for React Functional Component, and this is a feature, or you can say this is an extension I am using inside my VS Code in order to create a basic general component template. So product card, and I can use the same return here, but you might notice that what is going on here and why it's showing like this, why these red dots, because it's not understanding what is product, it's not understanding what is the index. So I'm going to remove this because this key prop, we don't need it here. We'll be using the key prop inside our app component. But in order to justify the product, we can set it as a prop that will be sent to this card. So in order to define this as a prop, we are defining this as a product title. Now why this red dots here? Because these red dots have not been defined. There is something called prop types, and they are telling that you need to define the prop types, but we are not going to use the prop types package here to define those prop types. Okay, same goes for the product prop here as well. It doesn't understand what product type is. So we have product card here. Now we are going to use this reusable component into our application. How? We are going to import this, and before importing, I can just go ahead and I can remove this part, and I can add this product card here. All I need to do is just try to import this, and VS Code is very much smart enough to import my components. So then I can use the key, and what I can do here, that instead of using the index, if you notice that every product has an ID, so I can say that product dot underscore ID, and this is very much efficient to do, and this is what React actually requires from you, that you use the ID of the object. Then we need to send the product as well, and we are sending the product. So this is how basically when you are looping over through the products array, you are defining each data. I don't have data here. You are defining each data as a product, and then you are sending that product data inside your component, and that's and in the props you are basically receiving this. So props is an object, and basically you are receiving the product data. Then each product object has this title, has this content, has this price property, and everything if is okay, then we can see what's happening here. If I reload this, yeah, now you can see that there are no errors and products data is working fine. There are no errors here because now we are using the perfect ID here, we are not using indexes. So I can remove this here, or I can just go ahead and change the casing as a little bit. I can say my products. Okay, now so this is your my products. These are the products you have creating. So you must be thinking that how I'm able to create new products from my React application, and how I will be able to delete and update an application here. Well, this is something okay, so there is something wrong here. What I can do here is that I can add an empty dependency array. So what happens that when we use the use effect function, it mounts over, it paints the application, and it will again call itself if we don't use any empty dependency array. If it's not using any empty dependency array, then it will run over again, or it will create an infinite loop, and that was happening here. Now if we run again here, everything will be okay, and you see that numbers are not changing here. Okay, because it's not calling the API over and over again. Okay, so we have here done, and this is how pretty much you are connecting the MERN stack. You created the API, now you created files and call the APIs with fetch or axios, and that's basically how you use the data. And to show the post request, what I can do here is that let me go to the ChatGPT, because I think I have already shown a lot of things here, and let's go to the ChatGPT here, and we can use the ChatGPT to create several functions in order to delete and everything here. Let me show you one thing here. I can actually, this is a very much form here, so we don't need here. Let's add a h4 here. You can say all products here, and I can create a form here, and just let's say add product. Form here, and we don't need action. Yes, we don't need here anything, but we might need an onSubmit function here, so we'll add that later. The only few things we are going to need here is, first let me ask the label, and the label will be, let's say, name, view title, product title, and then we can add a BR tag here, can add the input, and we can add the input text. We can add the title as the name to get the product title. Then let me copy this same thing over and over again. Okay, so input, let's say input type number, and we can set it as price and content. So you might notice that I am using the same property names that I have used for models here. So this input type text, this input type text content. We can use the label here, and we can use this for content, and finally we can use it for price here. Now if I go back here you might see that there is this here, and I know what the reason is happening is add a beer tag here, and after we input add a beer tag here, and finally we can add another input. Let's say input submit, and it will create a submit value, so we can add say submit. Okay. Let me save it here, and you can see this is a submit function. Okay, so now we can use this form to add new products into our database, and in order to do that, let's create a function that we use in order to submit data into our API or in our database. So let's create a function here. Let's say handle submit. Okay, and we'll get the event. And I will use this function in my form is on submit, and if you have worked with JavaScript, you know that when we are submitting a form, it always gets reload. So in order to not get the file get reload, we need to defend or prevent the default behavior. So we will write here prevent default. So whenever you are submitting a form, the page won't reload. Now in order to get this title, content and price, we can go ahead and get the form first. So we say const form, and we say event dot target. So this will be targeting the form itself. So we can get the title, and we can say form dot title dot value. Okay, actually not form dot title, maybe it's a form dot name dot title. Okay, let me see if this works then. Actually, it has been a long time since I have worked with React, and there may be few things I have forgotten. Title, then we have, let's say, content, and keeping the same property name, content dot value, and finally const price to form dot price dot value. Okay, now let me say console dot log, and I will just go ahead and keep them as object. Okay, save. Okay, so let me just go ahead and reload this for the first thing. Let's say I just say product one content. Let's say the price is maybe, yeah. If I click submit, I can see a console log here, which means that this is working fine. Now all I need to do is make a fetch request to my backend server to post this product data into our database. So how am I going to do that? Obviously, what I can do here is I can create a function, or I can use the raw fetch data as my post request. So I have forgotten the post request method, so I'm going to find the fetch API in JavaScript. I can see the post request method, so let's go to fetch API, and this is how you make get request and get text to my object again. Okay, fetch post request. fetch information. So fetch API post request sample. Yeah, so this is how you make a fetch request example here. Await response.json. Okay, fetch API post method, and I'm going to need this. JSON.signify. Okay, let me just get this first here. Alright, so now fetch we get the API URI here. Okay. Make a fetch and say API URI, and then we're adding this. Sorry, we have to add this as methods. So this is called the post method. We're sending application.json, and we are sending here as title, content, and price. So let's say title, and then content, and finally price. Okay. Now after this has been passed, we can check it through. .then. Okay. This.json, and then .then close. This.json and data, cache data, and console log data. Save it here, so we can see it here what's happening. So we are making a post request to this API, and we are sending the title, content, price in the body, request body. We are capturing the request JSON, and then we are later console logging the data. Okay, so let's go here, and now this time I'm going to open the network tab in order to inspect if my requests are making progress. So let's say product one, and again let's product one content, and let's just add some 13, and I'm going to make a request here. So it says here that response. You can see the response here. It says product has been created with the product, and we cannot see it. We have to reload this here, and now you can see that it has submitted. Okay, so we are getting this data from our database, which means that our post request is working perfectly, right? So what else to do here? What else we can do here? How we can when we are adding any product data here, how is going to show us locally here? Well, what we can do here is that when we are making a product request here, let's say if I actually have a console log data here, okay, I can ask fetch request using the method, and then catch method, I can see an example fetch API post request, so I can see what's going on here. Okay. Alright, so response.json, just I was right here. Yes, I can also add a catch here in my API here. So I can add a catch here. So if there is an error, we can handle that error. Now, when this data is retrieved, what we can do, we know that the data, if we go back to the network tab, we know. Okay, so okay, post request has been done. Let's make another post request. Okay, I will clear it out here, and let's say product 2, and let me copy the content here as product 2 content here. Okay, and let me just set it as a price like this 11 or something, and let me set it here. So after making a post request, we can see that the response, it says here that the product is inside the response data object. So what we can do here is that let me see if the console is there. Yes, so the console, in the console it says that it's inside data, so we have data. So what we can do here, that we can update our state. Okay, so now since I can do here one thing, I can cut it out here, and in the very first I can add it here, and since we are getting by the data, I can update the state here. So I can do here set products, and I know that there are some previous product data here, so I can call it previous, and I have to replace this with those previous data. So what I can do here is that previous data, set products data with previous data. Yes, previous data. And since I'm getting data from here, I can set it as, say, data. So it will add a new data to our state. Okay, save it here. Maybe I'm making some mistake here, so let me save it here. If I make it here, save. Okay, okay. Why is the prettier is responding? What is the problem here? It's showing some kind of ESLint error. Okay, let me just see it as okay, let's just see if everything is working. I think it's some kind of error is causing. So what I can do here is that I can hand over this to ChatGPT, and what's wrong here, why the state is not getting updated. I can ask the ChatGPT, let's say, what's wrong here, and why can't I update state here, because I know that the problem is inside the state, so it will try to give me any kind of solution here. Okay, so the problem is here. It says the issue is how you are attempting to update the states set products. This function is being called incorrectly, and here's the background. So all I need to do is get the product. So I see here, but what's difference here? What's the difference here? We have first bracket, we have another first bracket. I see. We have one first bracket here. So if I add this, clearly makes no difference here. Data. Okay. Alright, so I see. So what happens here? I remember. Because by default we are using an array here. We are using an array here. We need to update the array, not the object. So what the wrong thing I was doing is that I was actually updating an object but not an array. So what I have to do here is that the only thing I need to do here is that instead of writing object here, I can add array, and I can add this. Now since the products type is an empty array, the products array, the state is going to be updated after making a fetch request. Okay, so let's go here, and here I know that already product 2 has been added, so I'm going to add another product 3, and I can copy this, and product 3 I can write here product content, and price let us set it as 23, and if I submit here, I should see a network request 201 dash product 3 has been added here. So if I go back here, I can see the product 3. So you can see that the product has been updated automatically because we are updating the state. Okay. Alright, so guys, since it has gone so much late, I didn't want this video to be that much longer. What I would like to do here is that I'm going to add a last maybe a request, should be a delete, so we can delete a product from here. So I'm going to use a ChatGPT just for, let's say, deleting a product here. So I can say make a function make a function to make a delete request product by using yeah. So you can see that it has already created a delete request for me, and what I'm going to do is we're just going to copy this function, and this was for, let's say, post request, and we can also add for, let's say, delete request. So this is the last thing I'm going to show in this video, and I don't want to keep this video very much not much longer anymore. So I'm going to just paste it out here, and it's a function. It takes product ID as a parameter, then it makes a fetch request to delete the product, and then if response is not okay, then fail to delete the product, and product has been deleted successfully, something like that, and then maybe catch an error for deleting. So that's how you do it. So now how we are going to actually call this function. So what I can do here, that in the product card I can add a button here. Okay, I can add a button here, and then I can add a delete button here, and I can add an event listener here. So in React you can add event listener in camel case, and I can pass a callback function that will call this delete product, and as you will remember, every product has a product._id. So that's how we identify the product, and then I pass product._id. So but how this component is going to recognize this function? So what we have to do is we have to again update the state. Set this function, or we have to send this function to this this component or the product card as a prop. So yeah, in React you can also send functions as a prop from a parent component to a child component. In our case, the parent component is app.js and the child component is the product card. So let me go ahead and copy this delete function, and inside this product card, after the product, I can add this delete product as my product function, delete producting function, and then we receive them as a prop, and then we can send the product ID to this function when the button is clicked. Then this will receive the product ID and make a fetch request to delete this product. Now the response has been sent, the data has been retrieved. So what I can do here is that I can update the state again. How I can update the state again? I can call the set products. Inside the set products, I can use the previous, and I'm going to use the filter method here. Okay. So I can actually write here products dot filter, and I can say item, and every item has an underscore ID, right? So not equal to the product ID we are sending here. So this will filter out all the items that doesn't have the product ID we are sending in the function, and then the product state will be updated locally. So let me save it here, and let's go here, reload this, and yeah, now you can see that each product card has their delete function, right? So we'll start from the last product, and we'll look at the network function if it's working properly. So if I click here, it says 200, product has been deleted, and you can see that product 3 is actually gone from here. It's not in the interface even. Okay, it's not reloaded, but we actually updated the state. So if I click on the delete button of the product 2, you can see the product 2 has been deleted as well. If I click on the product 1, you can see the product 1 has been deleted as well. So if I reload this, we can only see 2 products. Okay guys, I think this is the finally. I have to take a zip again, and finally this big small chunk of project of showing you how the MERN stack actually works has finally finished. I showed you how you can create a basic backend in your Express.js server. I know that I haven't shown the authentication or the way how to create authentication in backend and the front end. Maybe I will show that in a later video, but you got the idea how the front end is connected to backend in a MERN stack project. Okay, so I would like to finish the video here, and if you are watching the video still now, I really respect you, because a lot of people nowadays don't have much of patience to watch this video so longer, and hearing babbling a person like me who can't even talk properly. But I just did all my efforts to create a content for people who are just want to watch, and I use my all the way I can make people understand how you can do things like this. And the way I think everyone can learn to do anything, or like making softwares like this, is to just directly jump on the project, try to find out what you are trying to achieve, and finally find the solution to the problem. Like, you are seeing me doing live research. Okay, I searched for solution in Google, I searched for solution in ChatGPT. Nowadays people are telling that AI is going to take your job, but here a lot of developers are using ChatGPT. It's a truth. We are using ChatGPT as like our assistant tool. is like our documentation, so we can build up an application. The ChatGPT is an AI that will generate code for you, but you are the person, you are the engineer who has to decide how you are going to use the code. Okay? So don't fear from AI, just learn to build everything. Enjoy engineering, enjoy development, enjoy front end, enjoy backend. Nowadays, I love backend much more than front end. Okay, so that's it for today. And thank you again. And if you are new to the channel, I don't say much, but I would like to request you to subscribe to the channel. And if you really like the video, then go ahead and like the button. If you don't like the video, go ahead and click the dislike button. If you have any comments or if you have any suggestion for me, just go ahead and do some comments. I would really love to answer all of your comments. Thank you very much.